Sean. Thank you for showing up again and making this community virtual hour a weekly tradition, and it's a fun collaborative environment. And we've been kind of experimenting, learning, trying to bring more value every week. And one of the things is we're trying to share with you a little bit of news here as we progress, and also bring our presenters. So I'm Sean. I'm founder of Vantage. I know all of you guys here. Carmen is our wonderful community manager, and she's there to help you, assist you any questions you have. The couple of inside projects that we're excited and we're working on. One is we are working on, actually there are two very exciting and awesome projects that we're working on. One is our request format. I think I shared with that a little bit last week, but our marketplace is pretty much a supply side. In other words, you come in and try to sell your services, and you're looking for clients, which is really one of the main drivers people join us. They really want to sell and offer their services. But also there's times that you need a service or a project that you have in mind, and maybe you do a little bit of a browse and you can't find the right fit. So we're adding a new way for you to post those as jobs or as projects. So you come in and you describe what you need and what your trade dollar value or budget is, or what you're willing to trade with. You know, you can even offer your services. And you just post it out there, and it'll be kind of like an ongoing, similar probably to Instagram stories. So it'll be an ongoing on top of a row, and it shows active requests that you're looking for that to find someone to match with. And then when others log in, they kind of check that every day and see, oh, I want to jump on this project. Oh, I'm interested in this. So we're going to add more of a demand side and add more demand-driven mindset to it. So we're excited about that. We're going into development next week and hoping to release it, within 4 weeks, but you know how developments are. So I'm not going to, don't hold me on that yet. The second thing we're working on, which is a partnership, that's a pretty amazing thing once we launch, is we're trying to add a consumer-facing portal for our site, where we're a B2B, business owner to business owner platform, and we trade services with one another. But while you have these services and your business online with us and the offers are posted, we like to start driving the public to it also. So consumers can come in, check it out, and purchase it with a push of a button. And that we're kind of getting into some sort of a partnership. And so we're excited about that. I have more to talk about that soon. In addition, we've launched our forum. So if you go to our website, I'm going to put a link here. It's a place where you can start your own discussions. It's a discussion board, and you talk about what you need, what you offer, kind of a free format way. So that would be an awesome thing for everyone to start participating in. With all that said, I want to jump into introducing our guest presenter. Mark is the founder of Enjoy Life Daily, a company focused on supporting conscious entrepreneurs with time creation strategies so they can elevate humanity through their business. I'm reading here. He organizes complexity into simplicity and supports others to manage mindset and optimize their day so they achieve deeper life fulfillment. Glad to have you on board, Mark. It's a pleasure knowing you since the Phoenix Startup Week. I think that's when we met. Yep. And the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yes, I'm super excited to be here and to share, because I see a number of you that I've had an opportunity to meet. So for those of you that I haven't met yet, I look forward to connecting with you. And when we connect, we'll have a little bit more perspective than the first few meetings that I had, where no one really understood exactly what we were all doing. We were trying to figure that out. So thank you all for being here today. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So, all right, here we go. So I start off with plan to be spontaneous. It's actually a phrase that I've been saying, and a lot of my friends have given me a hard time about saying that. Yet because I like to organize and structure things, it gives me an opportunity to have that flexibility and just adjustment. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly facing different detours and changes that happen. So what I am looking to share with you today is a tool that will help you do that, to really maximize productivity and fulfillment. So what I encourage you to do is grab a notepad, take notes in however format that you do. And I'd like to talk about the way that I really plan to be spontaneous is through organization. And so a tip that I'd even start off before I even begin this is I have found the best thing for me to do is to capture things in one sheet or one page or one place. And so what I would say for you is if there is a journal that you currently have that's dedicated to notes, then use that for this presentation. Or if you don't already have one, create one and start taking all these notes, because there's amazing presenters. I know each and every single week they do this. And Advantage puts this on as an opportunity for us all to learn from each other. So, you know, having that as one place, or like I said, even if you want to do that in the digital format, you could do that. So, you know, that way, when you're going to think about like, oh man, I remember there was that one particular note that I wanted to go back to, you're not sifting, sorting through 15 different journal notebooks or through the email or through this or through that. It's one place. So that's one tip that I wanted to start off with that I found really helpful for myself. And if you haven't already adopted that principle, I would encourage you to do that. So I'm going to start off with a quote. I'm a big fan of quotes, and this one is by Albert Einstein. So learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow. And I'm going to actually add something else too that I've totally forgot about. And Cliff, this one's for you. Entrepreneurs will work for as long as it takes, for as long as it takes. So the idea there is we're just constantly, it's like if we need to be up until 2 o'clock, and by the way, actually I was working after I had dinner last night, fell asleep on the couch, and then I'm like, oh, I need to work on a little bit more of the presentation. I mean, I had this all done. It was just like fine tuning and polishing it. And so I was up late, really late last night. And normally I don't like to do that at the same time. You know, it's what we do. And so I want to honor all of you for taking those steps, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. So I'm with you. I recognize you. And this is designed for you. So I'm going to start off this with one question. And that's, what's one breakthrough that you would like to make in your relationship to time? And I'm going to give you a little like container essentially to start to put that in. So how would you like to create time in your eyes? And, you know, I guess as we kind of shift in, I thought I'd be able to see everyone's here, but adding structure. Can I see a raise of hands of who people, which, and I'd just like for you to select one. So is it more about adding structure? So can I see a raise of hands on people that would like to add structure versus eliminate reaction versus focusing on their business or leveraging time? So how many people do I have that would like to add more structure in their day? Okay. Okay, I got 2. All right, how about eliminating reaction? Okay, and then what about focusing on business growth? Okay, and then leveraging time. Okay, great. So we're going to talk through those points, and I'm going to offer you a tool at the end with an example worksheet on having you identify yourself in one of 4 categories. So I basically call them time relationship categories. And the one would be, my relationship is that I flow with time. Like, it's like, my day kind of meanders. I've got ideas, inspiration hits me, and I just want to flow. And I could use a little bit more structure, but like, I don't want to lose my creativity. So flow is one. Another one would be like, I manage. I'm a really good manager of my time. I can manage that and effectively do and get through the things that I need to do in my day. Optimizing is I'm taking that next level of managing, and I'm really getting the projects done on time, exactly as I wanted to, and so on and so forth. And then the last one would be creating time. And that's where that leveraging piece comes into play. And there's a whole other thing that I could talk about on leveraging time, because I really have been able to effectively utilize virtual teammates because of the organization and the structure that I've been able to do. So that's another presentation. Yet I just want to give you some perspective of where we're at. So are there days where you feel like you've worked the entire day and got nothing done? And then do you ever feel like there's never enough hours to get everything that you want to get done? I know I have those feelings. So if I've got those feelings, I'm guessing other people do as well. So that's the idea. I wanted to kind of do a visual, and then we're going to get into this in just a moment here. But think about how fractured our time is. And I jotted down a few things, and this could actually be a lot more microscopic, but it wouldn't necessarily show up on as much of the presentation. But it's like, man, I'm getting new ideas, I'm following up, I'm checking Facebook, I'm doing this, I'm posting videos, I'm doing all of these things that I know are activities, but how do they actually kind of work together in cohesion? So what we were going to basically talk about today is what are some daily habits that you can use. And I'm going to share with you a tool that'll allow you to do that. And again, I'll give you an opportunity to download that, and I'll put it also in the chat a little later on. But what you're going to learn today is how to spend time on your top priorities, how to focus your efforts consistently. And because of the structure, you'll have an opportunity to see how that structure will also allow you the opportunity to be a lot more spontaneous. And then feel momentum at the end of the day. Feel like, man, I did that thing that I really wanted to do. And there's a simple question that I'm going to leave you with that allows you a chance to really take all the many things that need to happen in your day. And I know that there's many. I know you wear a lot of hats. And really boil it down into one. It's kind of that one thing by the book by Gary Keller. And then live in intention, not overwhelm. So here's the tool that I'd like to talk about today. And really it's the dashboard. And this is something that I came up with for myself about 8 years ago, because I was looking at all the different things that I was doing each and every single day. And I just was overwhelmed. And I'm 5 feet literally from my bedroom. And there would be days where I literally would pass out on my desk at 1 o'clock in the morning because I was exhausted. And I was like, something's got to change. So what I basically did was I created this dashboard to help me with the direction. And it's an acronym that I created with the direction, actions to take, really making it simple. So the simplicity of it, creating habit time. We've all heard about like the habits, and a lot of us have actually created habits of overwhelm. And so what this starts to do is it starts to re-engineer the habit of overwhelm into another type of a habit that is habit of productivity, habit of fulfillment, and what it is that you're going to feel of completion at the end of the day. It's actually about setting up boundaries. I know this was a big exercise that I learned actually with a ex-girlfriend years ago. She's like, you need to set more boundaries. And I was like, okay, yeah, lesson noted there. And so I took that into account, and I brought that into my time management piece here. And then it's talking about the one thing. It's looking at accountability to yourself. How many of you would ever think about missing a meeting with a potential prospect or a client or, you know, a partner? You wouldn't. And yet we do it all the time to ourselves. So think of this as an accountability to yourself to honor your time, to honor that self that is doing all this work to really make a difference in the world. And then it's about the reasons why, you know, when we get into a little bit more of the quarterly goals, which we're not going to get into today. Like I said, there's some steps that you'll be able to take a look at inside the worksheet, because I really wanted to talk about the daily enjoyment. You know, how do we make sure that we can get that daily step down and focus in on that? So if you want, there's the link down the bottom, and like I said, why don't I just put in the chat, wherever I could put the chat. Where is the chat? I don't know. I'll put that in later. But this is beginning with boundaries. So take a look at this. Like, think about all the things you've got to do, from marketing to finance to product development to sales to product. I mean, you name it. There's all these different things. So what I'd like to create are category days. Now, let me be clear. Category days like marketing. So let's just say, and I like alliteration, so I'm going to say Marketing Monday. I'm not saying that you only do marketing on Monday. What I'm saying is that if you need to do something like that blog that you want to write, that email newsletter that you need to create, that whatever it is that that video course that you want to start to create for your marketing funnel, those are things that you could start to stack into the category day of Monday, right? Or whatever day it would be for you. So think about what are all the different categories for you. And I would even invite you to take a look at if you could easily access your calendar. Not that I want you to take a whole lot of time away from this, and maybe you just do this after the presentation, or maybe even just right now. Take a look at what are some of those things that you're consistently doing, and how about if you actually, instead of it just happening, which is maybe how it's happening right now, maybe you're intentional about that, and maybe you say, you know what, I've got that meeting with my accountant every Friday, or I really need to make sure that I'm paying my bills on Friday, or I'm checking up on those invoices that are past due, or whatever it might be, and you start to put finance in Friday. Now, instead of you taking the time to take 10, to do those 10 things all inside of one day and not getting to them all, being able to spread it over the week, to know that if you're going to set up a meeting with your accountant, or if you're going to talk about anything finance related, it's going to be on Friday. And again, I'm making these days up for example perspective, but think about setting your category days and think about the 5 big buckets that you need to move. And, you know, if you have sales as one of those buckets, again, I'm not saying you only want to focus on sales in the day, but maybe on that sales day, you're working on refining your sales process, and you're taking a look at the emails that you're sending out right now that are getting responded back to or commented on or whatever that may be. And so this really boundary that you can set up allows you a chance to really own and honor yourself and honor your time and honor the commitments that you're needing to make. And I first learned about this by Jack Dorsey from Twitter and Square. He works both of those companies at the same time. And within that, he said, I'm going to work on sales on this day. And I'm going to go into Twitter and I'm going to work on sales on that particular company. And then I'm going to work another 8 hours days on Square for the other 8 hours. But it was all, his mindset was in sales. So hopefully you're kind of getting a little bit of the idea of having and setting those boundaries. And then I'm going to take a step into the next piece. I used to go quarterly goals, monthly themes, weekly focus, daily action. And I realized that that's a big chunk for us to jump into. So what we're going to really just mainly be talking about today are these daily habits, because when you stack things, if you've ever read the book, The Power of Habit or Atomic Habits, it's all about stacking little things and making sure that they continue to build. So what I'm inviting you to take a look at today is how might you be able to start to adopt this inside of your company, where literally you can handle this today, and you could start thinking about when you're scheduling that next meeting, putting it into a category day. And it can really be as simple as that. All right. So this next piece, and then I'm going to open it up to some questions that you may have or whatever else we need here, but identify habit times. And this is like I was referencing back, these are appointments that you have with yourself. And this would be an opportunity for you to say, like on that 9 a.m. marketing example that I have in the example worksheet, you'll see that, hey, that could be time where you're just learning about marketing and you're taking the time to read all those articles that come into your inbox. You're like, yeah, I'm going to read them later. Well, that would be the habit time that you would create. And that could be at 9 o'clock in the morning. It could be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe when there's that lull in your day, you can start to put that into category. But it's really the habits and the actions that are going to help you start to move forward and take those next steps in the advancements. And I'm going to quickly go through. So is that making sense to everyone right now?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So I'm gonna quickly kind of brush over, because I'd rather take the time to answer the questions. I wanted to give you a little bit more of the format so that you can see how this works. And if you go to that Discover dashboard, you'll have a chance to download it. There's a worksheet. There's an example board that has some of these very things that I'm talking about right now, as well as a blank board that you're seeing right here. So all of that I've created for you guys so you have a chance to take a look at that. Here's a super simple step when you're deciding on this. So you set up your category day. You set up that on Monday at 9 a.m. you're going to work on marketing efforts. And then you can start off your day by asking yourself this question: if all I did today was blank, it would be the most profitable, productive, and fulfilling day ever. And that was a habit. It was an exercise that my coach gave me in 2012. And that question is such a simple question that it's literally like, and it sets your intention for the day. So when those emails start coming in and you start thinking about all the other things that need to be done, my intention yesterday was to be prepared for this meeting, clearly, right? And so the idea with that was I wanted to make sure that I had done as much preparation as possible. And that was my one thing, that I wanted to absolutely ensure that I was giving and sharing as much as I possibly could, so that you guys had the tips and strategies so that you can not only just listen and learn, you can apply it and do. And that's really the idea of taking from the ideas into impact. And that's really what I'm all about. I'm really helping the entrepreneurs, like everyone who's on here, that want to make a difference in this world. This world is changing rapidly, and we need each and every single person that is coming from this place of wanting to serve, which is what I've observed from everyone that I've met thus far. And what I've seen inside the meeting as a group. So I wanted to share these tips with you to help you with that. So again, I'm going to do a quick kind of overview here, but the next one is the simplicity of your weekly focus. And think about that. So like this week, I wanted to really refine this presentation. So I had a presentation, but I refined it. So that was my weekly focus. I'm like, my weekly focus, check. Simplicity, got it done. Like I can now feel accomplished, like, yes, I did that. And there's a ton of other things I got to do, trust me. Yet I wanted to make sure that I focused on that. So I want to give you the step as well as a little bit of an example. And then your monthly theme. What are you mainly focused on for the entire month? So what's that one thing that you could point back to? And for me, this month has really been about me implementing a lot more of a new CRM campaign called Active Campaign, of which is actually going to be able to deliver these emails. You know, when you sign up for the dashboard, you're going to be getting that. And so like that's been my one thing for this month. And it's been a daunting task to take that on. And it's been, kind of leading up to this, but it really kind of helps you unite to a much bigger quarterly goal, which is the next thing. And you really start to see the goals and objectives. And those objectives are your reasons why. Why you're doing what you're doing and why that goal is important to you as it relates to your much bigger vision. So that's a really, I wanted to dig deep on the daily piece because I feel like when we get the daily piece done, then the other pieces are easily stacked on. Yet it's that exercise of, years ago, I remember watching a TED Talk where it was like, you're tying your shoes wrong. I'm like, what do you mean I'm tying my shoes wrong? Well, apparently I was tying my shoes wrong. And I had to relearn how to tie my shoes. And it's a fascinating TED Talk if you ever want a chance to get a chance to watch it. And you'll find yourself like, oh my gosh, it took me extra time to tie my shoes. Now I don't even have to think about it again like I was before. But it's like stacking those little things build, and that's what creates intention here. So I wanted to share a quick result here of, this was something that Junjun actually had applied for his video series. Like he wanted to create a video series. And I said, all right, man, well, let's take a quarterly goal, monthly theme, weekly focus, daily action. And he created this video series. He took the daily actions. 17 days later, he had an $8,000 sales day in the company that he was working at, and he wanted a Mercedes. I was like, dude, can you send me that as a testimonial? Because I'm like, that's a pretty freaking good deal there. And I believe in it. And I wanted to share that with you because this is like when you stack things successfully, they build. And clearly, I'm a fan of this. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to share. So as I was mentioning, if you sign up for that dashboard, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get the blank dashboard. You're going to get an example dashboard, and then you're going to get a worksheet. And each one of those worksheet pages, just so I could kind of give a little bit more context before you get it, because it might look a little overwhelming. Based off of your time relationship category, remember I mentioned this before. I'm in flow, I manage, I optimize, and I create time. I set it in with those 4 intentions, and based off of which one you feel and which goal you most attract to, I set up the blocks to relate to those points. So if you recognize as blue, like optimizing your time, the example that I give is based off of the blue in the example, so you can relate, and that's the step that you would take a look at. And you can look at all of them. I wanted to share that with you to give you more context. So that's my main piece here. I also wanted to say too, if you'd like, if you want to go, and I'll add this into the chat because I'm having a hard time putting the chat in when I'm sharing this because it's not, for some reason, it's not showing up. So I'll add this calendar link, and you could pick a time, and I'd be happy to sit down with you for 30 minutes, go over and work through whatever questions you may have about the dashboard. And so that's really it. I mean, be intentional instead of reactive. And, it's really about, the quarterly goals, weekly, monthly themes, weekly focus, and then daily actions to really help you to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. So that's my presentation today. And I wanted to make sure that I kept it as truncated as time, so that way it allow as many questions as possible. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was an amazing talk. So much value. And so much to learn. So I really appreciate it. I've got tons of questions, but I want to kind of give other people a go. Whoever has a question, go, and then I'll start with mine because my mind is running 100 miles. Who wants to go next? Wilbur.
I just want to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Clifford.
I just want to thank Mark for all the information he has shared. And I got to personally meet the guy. He's amazing at what he does, super, super sharp. And he will help organize you. And thank you for the 4 journal tip, because you make a really good point on that. I journal a lot of my stuff on one journal, and I'm flipping through it like, where I lost this page, I lost this piece. And if I had 4 journals for my marketing, my sales, my service, my operations, that would make life a lot easier for me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. If you could start, like, it's so weird because it's like the more containers you create, like I create a lot of this stuff initially. Like I created that dashboard initially in an Excel spreadsheet, and then it's morphed into what it's morphed into today. I mean, this is 6 years of development for what you guys are seeing. Yet what it did was in an Excel spreadsheet, you've got to be so clear on what that one document, what you're going to put in there, so that it doesn't overwhelm and create a big cell. So you've got to be very intentional about it. So that's another like tip for you to start using Excel to start organizing things in a way that gives you a chance to not have 25 gazillion things. And with more borders, you have more freedom. Like it's the craziest thing. Like it is so counterintuitive, yet it is really practical when you keep doing that. So thank you, Cliff. And yeah, I have to say the same thing about you, man. I so enjoyed meeting you. I mean, our half-hour meeting turned into an hour and a half, and I was like, man, I didn't even want to stop talking. So anyhow, if you haven't met Cliff, definitely need to do that too. So thanks for
Appreciate you.
All right, who's next?
Wilbur, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying when he started saying that, structure is very important. It's one of the parts of, helping you map out and be more effective. And I think that's one of the things that I struggle with, is just trying to find that structure that's going to make the day productive. And I bought kind of like a planner that helps you write down. And that's one of the things that I did the day prior, just trying to structure the things that I want to get accomplished in that day, the next day, and see the difference. Is like, I like Mark said, it's like you've been busy all day, but really have you accomplished the things that, were you productive? Because one thing is being busy and another thing is being productive. And at the end of the day, I will be like busy and still working at 8, 9 o'clock. And I'll be like, okay, so what exactly did I do today? Now it happens, but it's just usually when I have a project that I have to deliver and I have to really get it done, but not as often though. And to your point, Mark, first, thank you for really talking about this and giving us your time. And really, that really resonates with me a lot.
Oh, awesome. Well, you're why I do it. I mean, really, that's the truth. I mean, I know how much I share the practical example of like, I know what this takes, and it's not an easy path. And yet anyone who's on here is walking that path. And so if there's anything that I can share, that's it. So thank you, Wilbur. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? All right, I'll ask my question.
I think Megan, were you about to say something?
Oh, Megan, I'm sorry.
I was going
Go
to say
ahead.
something real quick too. Not a question, but during your presentation, I wrote down on a Post-it note what you said. If all I did today was blank, it would be the most fulfilling, productive day. Just because, like, there's always going to be a million things to do. There's always going to be a million things that we want to do more of during the day. And, we've got these like long running to-do lists. I'm looking over here because that's my whiteboard is over there and it's completely full, but we're never going to feel fulfilled or satisfied with that there, because unless we set an intention for what is going to make us feel fulfilled today, then that's always just going to make us miserable at the end of the day. Yeah. So this Post-it note, I have it stuck here on my monitor, and I think every day now I'm just going to establish what's going to make me feel good for the day. And I really like that. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. And what's so funny is like literally in the worksheet, I say, if you're a flow, like if you like to flow with time, which I get, a lot of people like to do that. I'm not even recommending you start with a dashboard. I recommend you start with that question. Mm-hmm. Because if you practice that question every single day, I promise you, because I did it. And here's also another quick tip on that same thing, like along the one thing, I kept track of all of those one things that I did each day. Mm-hmm. I was like, if all I did today was blank, like, and I filled that in every single day in one document. So I had like 175 things or whatever. I don't know how long it was, but I was able to go back and take a look at all the different things that I did. So that's another little tip of how you can also start to see, because there's leading indicators and there's lagging indicators. And the activity that we do today does not yield sales tomorrow. And I'm just going to use sales as an example. It's going to yield you the steps that it takes to lead to a sale. And so it could be very disheartening if you keep taking the steps and you're not seeing the results. If you're seeing the leading indicators of like, I'm taking the actions, I know I'm doing what I need to do, it will eventually work because I keep taking the steps. So anyhow, that's another little quick tip.
Totally.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. Oh, Elsie.
I just want to sort of, preach to the choir here that you're absolutely right. You touched on that thing about actually the more structure that you have in the day, the more creative and the more in flow you can work. Because then you allow your brain to just constantly concentrate on that one thing that you're supposed to do in that block time, instead of thinking about the million other things that you have to do that day, because you already structured your day to allow yourself that time. And it goes sort of to that, that one thing that you feel fulfilled of doing that one day. And I personally, opt that one with three things. What is the one thing that I want to do for myself, for my personal, for my personal fulfillment, for my business fulfillment, and my health fulfillment? So I really am very intentional about making sure that I fill those three buckets every single day.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point, because if we end up working on our business all the time, but we don't take into account of developing and building those relationships, friends, family members, and take care of our health, those are all equally important, because it's like the triad of three things that need to happen. You need your family and friends, and you need your health, and you need your business, and and so those things working together. So great point of making sure that as you're looking at your life and you're looking at those categories, how can you make sure that you're intentional each day? So thank you for that point. That's a great addition. Great. And then John. Oh. Yep, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So I have a friend. I was trying to talk him into, going with this one thing concept.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is he has like 5 huge goals in his life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was telling me like, yeah, John, that sounds good. But every day I don't make progress on all 5 of those things. Even if I made progress on one of them, I feel like depressed that I didn't make progress on the other 4.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was kind of at a loss. Like I was like, I got this. I'm going to inspire him. But then like he hit me with that, and I was just like, I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have thoughts.
Yeah. Well, this coming from a guy who couldn't say no. I had a lot of different projects, and I was actually selling for 5 different companies at the same time because I couldn't say no to all of them. And what that was doing was that was fracturing any of my efforts, because I was getting a little bit of progress here, a little bit of progress here, a little bit of progress here, a little bit of progress there. And what I would actually invite him to take a look at was, how do those unify into a much bigger piece? And what's the biggest piece that, I know you and I met as well, and man, I appreciate who you are as well, like the humanity of what you're looking at in terms of business. So if you haven't met John as well, like I love him. And actually I met Elsie as well. So I'm sorry, I know I just kind of skipped over Elsie. Elsie, we had a chance to meet as well. And so, all of these people, I encourage everyone to meet each other outside of these calls, because it's awesome. And when you were we talked about Scrum, how can he scrum those 5 projects and work on the one that's going to help move the needle for the other 4? And if he could start working on that, because if you're trying to build a car and you're like, okay, well, I got to build the wheels, I got to go manufacture the tires, I've got to build the frame, I've got to put together the engine, I've got to develop the interior. Like, okay, let's get the frame built first. Then we can put the wheels on, and then put the tires, and then put the engine in, and then actually build a car around it. So I would say if there's a way that he could start to take a look at what would be that priority that could help advance the other 4, because they all, I know I can dialectically think enough that I see how they all are interconnected. And even though I haven't met your guy, your friend,
Yeah.
I know that they're all important. At the same time, there's one pivotal point, like that lever point. And if he could find that lever point, and maybe it's not something that he could see because he's so in it, like you can't see the picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah.
Yet having someone like yourself, or if you'd want to hop on a call, I'd be happy to chat with him as well to talk through it. That's the idea of being able to find that leverage point, because once you find that leverage point, it's like, oh, here it is, and then everything else falls into place. So that would be my step and intention here, for where you're at and what's what I hear so far, without having any other context. I know there's a lot of dots that I'm connecting that aren't necessarily. I don't know all of the connecting points, but at the same time, that's kind of what I see as an abstract.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else? I know Sean had a couple things.
Awesome. I'll go next.
Perfect.
So again, amazing talk, and I love the thing about the Jack Dorsey, where the quote you made, because I just read and watched him recently, and one of the things that I really took away from what he was saying is the way he focuses is, on every project, anything that you're working on, it really the benefits and you reap a lot of benefits if you get to dig deep. So you do most of your learnings and discoveries when you sit down and work on one thing and you dig deep, rather than working on 5 things and covering everything, touching everything on the surface. So there is definitely benefits on staying focused and compartmentalizing things. The fact that we've been trained to be multitaskers, and the culture tells us that, oh, you can't do just one thing, you got to do 50 things, otherwise you're not productive. When I was going through my engineering school, one of the first exercises that we did, I think it was like the first or second year of engineering, was they taught us how the left brain and right brain, how it works. And the exercise we did was, we would solve a math problem, and then we will jump and try to do a drawing. And then we kept switching back and forth between each side. And then you would come to a screeching halt. Once we were in a creative mode, you had a hard time to do the math. Once you jumped from the math, you couldn't even draw, you would like scribble. And when I started working on it as an engineer, the company I started was a small startup, and I was both writing code all day, but I also had to take customer calls. And when I would be coding for like 4 hours, and all of a sudden a customer support calls comes in, I couldn't even roll my tongue. I couldn't even talk because I was so deep into coding. So there's definitely benefits on picking your time slots and your dedicated times to do that. Now, having said all that, I have 2 questions for you.
Aha. There is the setup. I'm listening to all of that. I'm like, okay, I got it.
Right. So the one thing is, I get tons of, you pick your days, and I do a lot of what you said, or attempted at it, trying to pick the days and the hours and different. I run 2 companies, so I have to split my time between the 2, and everyone has different areas. There's finance, there's creativity, there's all that. But in the meantime, I get a lot of these great articles and emails that I want to read, and I've been kind of putting them aside, and how do you manage the education and the learning part of it while you're still doing other things, specifically to these amazing educational articles that come? My inbox gets tons of them. So that's one of the things that I kind of have a challenge. And then the second question is, as you build these processes and these habits over time, I find myself, there are times that I literally, almost for a lack of a better word, I fall off the wagon. Yep. And I kind of get into a rut. And then it takes me a week or 2, and I'm like, oh, shoot, everything that I kind of was working for me, I haven't done. I'm kind of allowing others pull me, to the directions, or not having that discipline. What's the 1 or 2 things that you recommend to do to come out of that rut and getting back on that? Because my productivity curve I feel like there are great weeks and there's not so great weeks. How do you try to flatten that curve?
Great question. I'm going to come back to that. So on the article piece, and then really kind of like, how do you, when you fall off the wagon? And let me first of all say, I want to be completely authentic and vulnerable and real here, is that I'm working on this stuff myself as well. right? I created these things for myself, and I'm still working through it. Like I teach it, and I recognize the challenge of what that is, because there's so many things that are coming at us. And it's the idea of when there's a much bigger reason. Like what I've found inside of that is when you have something that you're working towards that you really connect to, that's a much bigger why. I knew that me working on this presentation this week and making a lot of effort and focus on that was not about me. It was about everyone who's on this call right now. And I'm not saying that to say anything, to placate anyone who's here. I really hope, I know there's a number of you that I've met in person, and you're going to feel that when we do meet in person, the same way that you're hearing it now. And what I would say is that gave me the drive to keep working on and making sure that I stayed connected to that. So what I would say is, where are there some things that you're working on that aren't connected to that much bigger why? I mean, Sean, I know when I watched the couple of videos before you and I first met, I was like, this guy is really looking at how he can basically take out the friction of money, and I'm like, that's a big deal. And I know that you're up to big things. And so how can you make sure that that's not lost in your day-to-day, and how can it be tied into those things? And again, there's certain weeks where, a task is going to get pushed off because I'm like, I don't have a presentation like this that I need to have prepared for, and so it's really giving yourself that, that emotional boost,
right?
That's going to help you connect, because that is what's really been driving me to get a lot of these things done. Is not for me, it's for others. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, how is this impacting others as opposed to you? I feel like you're going to find the drive inside, just like I'm finding it. And like I said, and I want to be 100% transparent here in all of this, because to me that feels as authentic and real as I can possibly be about that. Okay.
Thank you.
In terms of the articles, again, I have a naming convention that I've created that I've been working on over the last 4 years to organize all of the different things that are coming in my business. And what I would say is, do you use filters inside of your email?
Right.
Okay. So, again, what I would say is, if that's something that you want to put in your learning, like as a learning time, schedule it on one of your category days. Have all of the things that are coming from whomever that are marketing related go into that marketing folder. And maybe you do marketing during 1 week, and you do something else that's sales related on the next week. And then you do something else that's whatever else related on the third week, and have that as a calendar invitation for you. And then all that you need to do is, when that pulls up, like when you see, oh, it's Thursday, I'm working on sales, right? And I want to look at what Frank Kern is doing or whomever's doing out there. I want to learn about that. And I know those articles are in my inbox. So all that you then need to do is look at that. So it's not gumming up your inbox, and it's going over to this filter, and then you're being intentional with what you're looking at inside of it.
Right.
And then one last point that I wanted to make, and then if you have any other follow-ups to that, I'm happy to answer. When you mentioned this, and I'm going to give credit to Dave Crenshaw, I've been studying time for a long time. I'm really fascinated by it. I've always loved even like time type movies, like Back to the Future, and so it's always been kind of a fascination of mine. That's why I'm like, who's creating time? Like that's an interesting claim to be saying. Like, I know when you probably got there, you're like, what is he talking about? So anyhow, Dave Crenshaw wrote this book called The Myth of Multitasking. And there's an example that you could do. You don't have to do it right now, but you can do it later. Time yourself writing out the alphabet, A through Z, and 1 through 26. And that's single tasking, right? That's focusing on one thing at a time, the alphabet,
right?
1 through 26, versus multitasking, where you have to go A1, B2, C3, D4. You even hear how I'm slowing down, right? But I can do ABC to UGA, right? Like that's the speed. And when you really get to it, that's the power, and that's the leverage that you get when you start being intentional with your day.
Awesome. Thank you. Great.
So, and if you want, I could even drop some links to some books if you guys would be interested, that I would recommend in terms of some habits. I don't know if anyone would be interested in some of those.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll do that while we kind of wrap up here. Is there any other questions? Thank you. These have been great questions, and clearly I love talking about it. And I'm happy. Oh, Wilbur, yes, Wilbur, and then I think Jesus.
Yeah, I just want to mention again how much this planner has helped me, because it's not a regular planner kind of thing. It has some comments here that talks about.
I think you froze up.
Yeah, I lost you. Wilbur.
We're gonna stay
Okay.
tuned until we return again here.
Go to Jesus.
Yeah, I'll go over to Jesus. Oh, okay. Well, you're back. Oh, you're
Okay,
back.
sorry about that. I know it got frozen. So I was saying that there is this planner. It helps you get into a mindset for your day, and it has some stuff that it asks you to write. So the mindset in the morning, it says, one thing I can get excited about today is, and then you have to write there. And then the number 2 is like, if one word could describe the kind of person I want to be today, then that word is, and then, and then it says, and why I chose that word. So it forces me to help and think about these things, and helps me also plan my day by hour, what I want to get accomplished that day. It helps me, it asks me to, what's the message to myself today? Okay, so I have to write that. And also says, today, top 3 goals / priorities. And then, it really mentally, it helps you like take these things into perspective to give structure to your day. And once you start doing this and on a daily basis, it's very powerful. So Mark, like everything that you're talking about today is so important for us to have kind of like that compass to where we want to go on that day in terms of productivity. And like, Sean said, it's like we get so many things, we get bombarded with all these things that at the same time we want to take care of. And in my case, I have that problem. Like I could be very focused in a moment, and the next moment I'm like, oh, squirrel. And then I'm just go off the rail, and I just lose my mojo there. So
you're the one that does that.
And then I read this book. It's called The 5 a.m. Club, that also has been very powerful. You know what I mean? Just to help me, like you, I'm very like all over the place. So I need these tools for me to be hyper focused and be effective. Otherwise, I'll be a completely mess.
Yeah, and if I could underline what you shared there too, that planner, fantastic. You're using that, keep using that, right? The idea is whatever it is that you're using, keep using it and be consistent with it. And that's like my intention. That's why I was even saying, like, if you're in flow and you want it and you love that question, like Megan was like, hey, I love that question. Use that question. Like that's the thing that you can easily do, that you can start to implement, and you can do that every single day. Like it doesn't take you there's no extra time that it takes in order for you to answer that. So again, what I'm more or less underlining is, when you find something like what you found in that planner, keep using that. Like, but this is not saying like you got to eliminate that thing. It's the idea of, finding that thing that works for you. And I'm big on how do you create that with the little step. Like, what's the one question that you can ask yourself today that's going to help you get you there? Now that you're doing that one thing, great, let's stack something else on. This is what Atomic Habits talks about, right? Then stack something else and stack something else. And so all of a sudden now it's like, oh, it's a well-run machine. So thank you for that comment. Well said. And thanks for letting me kind of reiterate that point. All right, Jesus.
All right, I just actually want to make a comment. I've actually got introduced to this concept about 15, 16 years ago, but it's not as elaborate as what I just saw. The way you have it laid out is so much, it just seems so much easier to follow. When I got introduced to it, it was more of a color code. So you have your calendar and you have, whatever colors you use for whatever activities you use. And I still use that, but I just kind of dawned on me as you were talking about this, that I've been doing this for years, that it's just there. So I do certain things on certain days because I've been doing it for so long. I don't even color code the calendar anymore. But I like the concept because, like, for example, Fridays, before this whole things started on Fridays, I only work till noon. And the reason for it is because Fridays is my administrative day. So anything that's falling as far as, you know, paperwork that needs to be done, transfer forms that need to be sent, that need to be made. If I don't get to them during the week, I know that I'm going to get to them on Friday, because that's my day to do administrative stuff. And if I did find out that by having a structured administrative day, I can get a lot more done Monday through Thursday. Now, when I do the administrative, is what I'm finding out that I have more time. I usually have my time set from like 9 o'clock in the morning to like 2 in the afternoon on Fridays, and then I'm done. But obviously with this whole pandemic thing going on, I had to kind of shift things a little bit. But if for example, if I get an email or a call or get a voice message and somebody says to me, hey, call me, and there's not a time or a day on there, it's kind of hard. It's hard for me to do that because I'm so focused on a time and a day that where do I squeeze that in? Because I'm so focused on when I'm going to do what. But I'm definitely going to download that that planner you have. Thanks for the presentation. It kind of brought me back to maybe I can use that and kind of refocus even and get a little bit more tied. Because this whole technology thing to me is very new, that I actually had to shift and say, okay, in order for me to do business, I got to learn how to do this technology stuff, because I wasn't in that realm until now. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And so one thing that I would add, and I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more about it if you want to set up a time to meet. And what I would say is, how can you decide at certain times that you're going to follow back up with people inside of your day, kind of almost putting it at like 11 o'clock before lunch, and then maybe 4 o'clock at the end of the day. So that way you have those kind of buckets in your day. Because I'm in the same place. I am in, you know, I've shared this on other presentations before. Like if my parents are calling, like my mom are calling me or my dad's calling me, I'm not answering it. Like, and it's not that I'm not answering it. It's like I have my phone on quiet and I'm on work mode, because taking that distraction away from something like this has been a combination of strategic coach. I went through the Dan Sullivan program. This is RPM, Tony Robbins. This is, you know, so Atomic Habits. This is Power of Habit. This is Dave Crenshaw's. I mean, like, there's so many things that I've tried to stack into this one thing. And it's been 6 years that I've been working on it. And I'm saying that simply to say, there's a lot of what you're seeing is like, my friend shared this with me years ago. It takes a lot of things. You really understand something when you can explain it in one sheet or less. Mm-hmm. And what this really is doing is it's taking what is our crazy amount of time and putting it into a place for you to be able to download it. There's no technology needed. You download the planner and write on it if you want, right? And or not, or just put it inside of your calendar. I mean, it really is kind of just that guiding, those guidelines. So in terms of the sales follow-up, or, you know, when you're getting calls, I agree with you. I think that's wise for you to be focused on what you need to be focusing on, because you never take a phone call when you're in the middle of a meeting, unless there's something really super important. And obviously that takes precedence. At the same time, like every hour, maybe kind of checking in. Okay, what happened now? If you're not waiting for that dopamine hit that Simon Sinek talks about, right? Which is what everyone's doing when they're picking up their cell phone. It's like, there's a dopamine hit. There's dopamine hit. Oh, I got another message. Oh, I got another email. I got this. I got that. You know, if you're able to kind of put that aside, you're able to really dig deeper. And so a quick suggestion that I would say based off of your question would be picking out times that you feel would be times that you can, that would work for you. And maybe it's right before lunch, like I said, or right before you're going to end the day, and stick with that.
Cool.
May I add just a quick thought to that, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jesus, one thing that's so easy to do too is in your voicemails, just say, I typically return calls between 12 and 1 o'clock. Because then when people leave you a message, they know when to expect a call back from you.
You know, I actually did used to do that, but one of the feedbacks that I got back by doing, I actually took it off my voicemail. The response that I was getting is, well, I can't take your call at that time.
No, and or you can say, or please leave a time convenient for you,
Yeah.
because it's you're the one who is in charge of your schedule. Nobody else is. And you can, because you know when you can service them best.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Right.
people are not willing to give you a time, you know, I'm just trying to create a structure here for you. But when you think about it, like, this also allows you to be much more focused on what your clients really need.
Mm-hmm. No, I guess maybe it was misunderstood. I do everything by appointment.
Uh-huh.
So I don't just call people on a whim, just hoping that they're available, because I don't want to intrude on their time. That's their time. That's their productivity time. Just like you said, my time is my time. Well, their time is their time. So I always ask for appointments, and I always ask when is the best time for them. And then at some point we match our calendars. What I meant by that, by the comment I said, if somebody out of the blue says to me, give me a call, and they don't say when, then I don't know when to call them, because I'm very focused on the people that I'm actually meeting with, and I don't want to take away time from my clients or my prospects that I've already scheduled to just call somebody because they said give me a call. I'm a little bit more structured than that. So, and especially right now, because I have very little time to do other things, because I'm learning a lot. I've kind of taken the opportunity that as long as I'm locked in, I might as well be learning something. So I'm learning technology. That's my focus for this whole thing, and every day I'm getting better and better at it. But I just shifted my calendar, and it's really tight. So when somebody says to me, give me a call, I can't just call because I don't know when they're available. So I guess I'm just doing it more out of respect for that person's time, because it does get frustrating when you call somebody because they said, give me a call, and they don't pick up. And then you call them again and they don't pick up. That's just because I'm not calling them at the right time. That's kind of how I interpret that.
I get that, but and then it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific time. You say, you know, my calls will be returned, because that's somebody out of the blue. It could just be, I will return your call within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And if you say within 24 hours, then the person will be looking out for it in that time.
Yeah, I got that habit back from when I had my other business. I had for 21 years I did coffee service, and if you're a coffee drinker and you don't have your coffee in the morning, it's a big deal, you know. So my message always said, if there's something wrong with your equipment, it'll be repaired. Not I will return your call. It would say it would be repaired in the next 2 hours. It didn't matter what time they called. So that's kind of where I learned that particular thing, and I just kind of transferred it to calling. But with this whole virtual stuff, it's a lot harder, because now everybody's on the phone, everybody's on the computer. And I mean, I just had Cox over here day before yesterday to boost our signal, because I think the whole neighborhood is watching movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Quick thing, and we probably want to make sure we go around, have the introductions, because I know this is taken up almost. Again, I appreciate all the great questions. One of the quick thing that you might even think about is a calendar type of scheduling tool. If you haven't already done that, and again, we could chat about that. You could actually use my calendar link, and we could talk more about that. But yeah, I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to, because I know that that's another huge part of this, is getting us all having a chance to meet each other. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Sean. Thank you guys for being a wonderful audience. Appreciate all the questions, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any more. Happy to answer.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. This is a great turnout, great group turning out to be. I've really enjoyed this. I'm going to throw one more maybe question or as food for thought. You know, there's so much structure that we've talked about today, and how we're going to discipline and keep everything on schedule. Is it also true that just like when you go on some sort of a diet regimen where you have cheat days, where you can do whatever you want, eat whatever you want to kind of, you know, get it out of your system? Is it okay to have a cheat day on this rigid schedule? you get up those days and say, you know what, I feel like doing this today, and that's all I'm doing. I don't care about my tight schedule.
Absolutely. That's the idea behind the plan to be spontaneous.
Right.
Because the thing about it is, you know that you've taken care of the other things that need to be taken care of. It's not
Right.
like, oh crap, I'm off, but I didn't take care of that, and I didn't take care of that, and didn't.
Right. Because if it was up to me, I'll be doing creative stuff all day long. I love creativity. I love building things and you know, working on creative projects. But sometimes you got to sit and do accounting and finance and follow.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. I mean, there's things that need to take place, and there's other things where, and by all means, like, we got into our business so that we could actually do those fun things, right? The things that we love doing. Like I don't know if any of you guys have ever met Chris Ronzio from Trainual.
Yeah.
If you haven't, Trainual, I mean, he's a fantastic guy. And we met, this is a couple of years ago, and we were geeking out because he loves organizing. Clearly, Trainual is all about organizing, right? And I was like, dude, I love organizing. So we had this whole like little thing. I spent time organizing over the weekend. Like, that's actually fun for me. I know that sounds like nails on a chalkboard to some people. Yet for me, I'm like, it's therapeutic.
Right.
Right. So it's being able to find those things that you thrive and enjoy. And I just happen to find a company that I can do that and help other people with that. So